Hey guys, we're going to talk about closing the deal in this video, okay? So this is after you've done the prospecting, it's after you've had that initial call with them, the interview call or the meeting. You may have already sent a screencast video over. This is when we're coming in for the close. And keep in mind that at any point in those, in that prospecting call, inside the interview call, inside any of those things, like, you have the power to close in all of those. So this is not a one, step-by-step system. This is going to be something where you have the conceptual knowledge to apply to any situation dependent on the client, okay? Because there are going to be some clients where you're going to be able to literally close them in that first call. And then there are going to be other clients that you're going to have to call 6 different times to get them to close. So you're just going to need to have the conceptual understanding of how the whole system works and then really how to go in for the kill, okay? Okay, so what we're going to talk about here is just some concepts and some tips to helping you really close these deals well. Okay, so first things first. All right, what I've got here is kind of the mindset that you're going to have throughout this entire process is you really want to float the line between being genuinely wanting to help the client and literally on the other side of that you're saying, I'm going to go to your competitor tomorrow to sell this to. Okay, so you're like constantly doing this tug and pull where it's like, hey, yeah, we really want to build this relationship with you, which we do. We really want to build this relationship with you, but if you don't, then I'm literally going to go to your mortal enemy tomorrow and I'm going to work with them instead. I have no qualms with doing that. So there is this mindset that you got to have, this approach that you got to have. It's got to come through in your voice where you're not going to chase them. This is an opportunity for them, not something that we're just trying to sell them. Okay, we're not just trying to get them on some. We're not trying to get them to buy a product that they don't really need. This is something that truly is an opportunity for them. And if you have to spend more than whatever amount of time to explain that to them, then it's not worth your time, and we're going to sell it to someone else. And so be confident in that. Be very confident. You don't need to be salesy, and we're never going to beg. We don't need to be in we're not the kind of company that says the customer's always right, kind of a thing. We're not going to stoop to that level, because a lot of times the customer's not always right. I mean, let's be honest here. Some people are stupid. Okay, I mean, I'm sorry, but some people are stupid. They're entitled, and they think they somehow, or like the world somehow owes them something. And we're not going to work with people like that. We're going to work with people who genuinely want to explode their business, and people who want to have a relationship at the same time and have a partnership that works. We're not going to service people who are just entitled the whole time. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off on tangents. So anyway, this is just have that mindset to just really truly believe in what you're selling. And I have it in quotes here: "We will fly without you." This when I'm talking to a potential client, I'm basically taking the approach like, hey, look, like here it is. I've laid out the facts, and if you're not interested right now, like, that's totally okay. Like, I'm not trying to pressure you into buying this by any means. However, I do want to let you know that we are interviewing 4 other companies this week, and we will sell them. I'm sure I can assure you that one of them will buy this. So if you don't, that's totally okay. But just know that your competitor will have this. And that's usually like we're yanking it off the table, and the customer's like, oh, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna go on to number 2. I think I've driven that home, or that point home, pretty well. Create a sense of excitement. How you ever have someone try to sell something to you and they're just like not even the least bit excited? It could just be a perfect example of someone who is, who's going door-to-door salesman, and this is some random guy trying to sell like Cutco knives or something. Or actually, a great example is Jehovah's Witness. I had a couple people come over this past summer to my house, Jehovah's Witness people, and I'm not getting into religion here. I'm just talking strictly about their approach. They seemed boring. They seemed dead. They seemed like like they were already ready for this world to end and heaven to come. And I'll tell you what, that had, just from a sales perspective, from me wanting to buy what they were selling, I had no interest. Granted, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness person anyway, but I had literally no interest because they didn't have any excitement. Like I didn't want what they were selling. My first thing was, if they believe this way, if they are this certain way, then, and I'm not saying all Jehovah's Witness people are like this. It was just this couple. I was saying, if that's what you have, then I don't want it. If that's what you're selling, I don't want it. So the same is true when we're selling this. We have got to be excited about what we're doing. You can't just come across as, hey, I have this. Which we wouldn't have hired you anyway if that's how you were. But I have this website thing that we're selling, and it just, no. You got to paint a picture for them. Help them to see the vision of really what this thing can become for them. You paint that picture and really drive that point home of, hey, like what would it look like if this was generating an extra 50 leads a year for you? I mean, what is that? Like maybe try to put it in numbers if you can kind of get some generalized numbers there. What would an extra $250,000 in your business do for you? I mean, think about, what would you, I just want you to and you can even say this, just for a second here, I'm not trying to be salesy, but really truly imagine what it would look like for your family if you had that extra money coming in. I mean, what would you do? Would you take a vacation? Would you maybe buy your wife or your husband something really nice? Would you buy your kids? Would you send them off on to some amazing summer camp they've always wanted to go to? I mean, you really start talking of, you start playing inside of their emotions, because a lot of this is going to be somewhat of an emotional buy for them. It totally makes sense, but it also has to make sense emotionally for them. Okay, so just paint that picture. Number 3, oh man, I hate when I do that. Number 3, don't ever talk in terms of if. This isn't an if, this is a when. So we say, when this is generating leads for you, you don't say, oh, if this generates leads for you, if this works. It's always, hey, when this works, when this takes off, when this is generating leads for you, when, always talking in when. That is a very confident way to say that this will work. If kind of comes across as saying, one, I want you to get rid of if in your vocabulary whenever you're talking to these clients. We're not talking in ifs, we're talking in whens. So anyway, that's just real quick. Okay, address objections. This is very important. We have talked about this before, but just make sure you're never making someone feel dumb for any objection or hesitation that they have. You have no idea what this person has been through. You don't know their experiences. You don't know their education level. You have no idea where they're at. Okay, so when they ask a really, really stupid question, you can't be like, oh yeah, that's easy. Nobody likes to know it all. Oh man, I'm not gonna. I had a story to tell, but I won't tell it just for sake of time. But nobody likes to know it all. Okay, they're very frustrating to work with. And when somebody is asking a really dumb question, you can just say, hey, that's a great question, and I'm really glad you asked that, actually, because that gives me a chance to explain. And then you explain it. You're also pre-framing that answer to being positive. If you answer, oh yeah, oh, that's an easy question, or you can just basically discounting the fact that their hesitation meant anything at all, it's going to make them feel stupid. And nobody likes to feel stupid. Or maybe they're hey, I don't feel confident about this, or whatever. And you say, hey, I totally understand why you feel that way, because, and then give an example, because XYZ client felt the exact same way, and they're now making this much money. It's that kind of a thing. Obviously, you want a more extensive story than that. It's not that simple. But anyway, just make sure you don't feel stupid. Every time they ask a question, the beginning of that first sentence that you're going to answer with is what pre-frames that answer. Okay? Really let that sink in. Pre-framing is so important in your sales. And if you don't pre-frame correctly, you won't do well. You have to keep that customer's mind in the right place to be able to say yes. Okay, number 5, create a sense of urgency. This is kind of what I was saying earlier with number 1. These kind of go hand in hand. If they're hesitant, if they're really, oh, well, let me think about it here for a couple weeks. We want to create that sense of urgency and not sound salesy. If someone's saying, I want to think about this for a couple weeks, you say, hey, I totally get it, and I really don't want to sound like a salesman here and like I'm trying to push you. I'm just gonna give you the facts, and the facts are this: we're gonna be interviewing. We're interviewing 5 companies in this city that are in your exact same space. Um, and then you're gonna name up. So it's company one, company two, and you're basically like act like you're reading it. It might be XYZ painters, and so that they know their competitors, so they know that you're going to go talk to them. So anyway, and I just want you to know, like, we're going to be interviewing them this week, and one of them will probably buy this. So again, I don't want this to come across like I'm trying to make you make this decision today, but I do want you to know that this is on a first come first serve basis, and that we're only going to work with one company in this space. Okay, we aren't going to we're not going to sell this to anyone else. You would be our sole painter in this city, and you would have, basically in our contract we say that we will not compete. We won't have another company that competes with you. Okay, so you'd basically say something like that, and at that point they're like, "Oh crap! I don't want to lose this opportunity. This sounds amazing, and if I don't bite now, then I'm not going to be able to get this at all. And worst case scenario is it actually goes to my competitor, who's going to take all my business." So this is what's going to go on through their mind as you're continuing to go through that explanation. Okay, and that's exactly what we want it to do, because we want this to pull with their strings. We want them to be like, "Crap! I need to make this decision right now." Most of the time, people are just hesitant for no reason. Either they're not going to do it and we're going to push them to not making the decision, or they are going to do it and we're going to push them to make that decision. People who are very indecisive, they just oftentimes, like, you ever go to for instance, this is just a side example, you ever go to a restaurant that has like 15-page menu, and you're like, well, crap, you spend like 20 minutes trying to figure out what the heck you want. Whereas you go to a place that has 3 things on the menu, you figure out what you want in 20 seconds. It creates a sense of urgency. There's not as many options. So the same is true when you're trying to get an indecisive person and trying to get them to make a decision. You have to basically make sure that there's no that time frame does not extend into like months and weeks and months, because Parkinson's law at that point takes effect. We talked about that before. Like, they're going to figure out, if you give them 2 weeks to make the decision, they're going to take 2 weeks to make the decision. Give them 10 minutes to make the decision, and they'll make the decision in 10 minutes. So anyway, long story short, you want to create the sense of urgency. And like I said in there, when I was pretending to talk to the client, we will only work with one company per niche, per city. Okay, so we do not work with another, and that is a very big thing, big sell point that you're going to get to say is like, hey, you are our partner here. This is not going to anyone else. We're the only ones that will work with you. Or you're the only one that will work with us, and for as long as you keep this contract open, you're going to be our sole partner in this space. And that's usually very attractive to them too. Okay, last thing I want to talk about here is this idea of, if they're still hesitant, this is what you're going to be able to offer. We're going to talk about this in another video where you're going to be able to, where you have the flexibility. So I'm going to talk about some things that you're going to be able to offer in addition, or to get someone to bite, or what kind of flexibility do you have to make offers and so forth. We're going to talk about that in another video. But for right now, what I want to show you here is this idea of, hey, just give us a try. There's really no risk here. Honestly, the only risk, and I'll be very upfront with you, is the $9.95. It's going to cost you $9.95 to do the setup, but in terms of committing to a 12-month contract, you know what? Let's just do a 3-month revenue share. Let's see if this is something that actually works for you. And you know what? We won't even charge you until you get that very first lead coming in. So if we don't generate a lead for you for 2 months, you won't pay anything for 2 months. Or at least you won't pay that monthly thing for 2 months. And then after that 3 months, we can discuss if this is something that's a good fit. Then great. If it's not, then we can go on and we'll maybe sell it to someone else that can use it. Does that sound good? And then they're like, well, okay, so I only have to pay $9.95. They're pretty much paying $9.95 for their Yellow Pages crap, or their Home Advisor, Angie's List, something, they're clearly, most small business service providers are using a service like that, and it just costs usually well over that. And so the $9.95 is very competitive for what they want. So that just kind of makes sense for them. And then you continue to address any objections that they have from there. and to really go in for that close. It's, I mean, you don't have to be all salesy, you don't have to try to catch them in some trap. You just say something like, hey, Mr. Business Owner, so now that I've presented you with the facts, I've presented you with kind of the vision of where we're going here, how does this all sound? Is this something that you're maybe going to want to do? And then they're going to say, you know what, yeah, this sounds really good. Can I talk to my husband about it? Can I talk to my wife about it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I just want you to know that we will be interviewing other people, but what I can do for you is, I can give you a day, and I can guarantee you that we won't sell this to anyone else within that day period. How does that sound? And they're like, oh, like a day, okay. Yeah, okay, that's good. I'll get back to you tomorrow. And 99% of the time they will. If you've got them to this point and they say, well, let me talk to my wife about it, which oftentimes if they're going to talk to the wife, it means it's probably going to be a no. I'm just kidding. That's happened quite a few times. Usually, not saying that the wives are bad, just saying that there's some type of synergy that often happens between husband and wife that sometimes we lose the deal. So we're still working on how to navigate through that. If you know how to navigate through that, then be my guest. I think the best way to do that is probably to have the wife or the spouse come to that interview call or to that interview meeting. That way you can explain it to them. Which I'm getting a little off topic here, but anyway, so yeah, you're going to open that up for a 24-hour time period, and that's up to you. You can be flexible. I mean, realistically, if you have all these calls set up and you're not even talking to someone for another 5 days, like we say we want to interview all those companies in that 1 week period, but I mean, if it extends into 2 weeks, that's totally fine. You're basically just creating that sense of urgency. Okay, so that pretty much does it. These are some tips on closing the deal. I'll have this Google Doc attached. We might add some things on here throughout as we continue to grow and as we continue to get new ideas. So yeah, that's pretty much does it for this video. We'll see you in the next video.